You remember we did a scare zone last year called Holidayz in Hell, right? And somewhere, it was sick, and somewhere in the house here, Pat Quinn, where are you, Pat?
He's right in the front, right up here.
Pat, stand up, take a bow. Pat Quinn. Pat Quinn works with Chris and I, has for years on Halloween Horror Nights. This was Pat's idea. Pat came to us, he pitched this idea last year. Pat does all of our scare zones with Chris and I. He does a lot of the park decor you see in the park every single year. If you like the way the park looks, if you like the scare zones, the credit belongs to Pat. And he kind of thinks differently than Chris and I, but you know, he came and pitched this idea, and immediately I was like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, Pat.
And I was just gonna say that tied into like, you know, a few of the other scare zones in the past, like the Dark Christmas one, and even I thought like Hell's Harvest in a sense too, where it's kind of like this good gone bad theme. You know, it's that big twist, and you can tell it works really well.
So. Last year, people loved that scare zone. It was the highest rated scare zone by you, the fans and the guests, in the history of Horror Nights. In all the years we've been doing Horror Nights. It was like off the charts. Everybody loved it. So this year we sat down and we went, you know what? That would actually make a really good maze. So I don't know if you caught it on the video, because that video is obviously all footage of the scare zone last year, because we haven't built it yet, so we can't shoot video of the maze. But what we are going to do is take you through the maze, if that's okay with you. We'll show you the character designs, we'll show you some of the elevations. And I don't know if you caught the credit at the end, but we have a really good friend who we've worked with for a long, long time on music, and his name is Figure. You guys know Figure? Figure is an electronic music artist, sometimes described as a dubstep artist. But what he really specializes in is doing like horror-inspired electronic music. And he did a maze with us years ago called Monsters Remix. He also did the music for our Face-Off maze years ago. And so we called up Figure and asked him, hey, would you like to do the music for this? And then I gave him, much like I did with Slash, I pulled all these music examples, like everything from old Al Boley, you know, the guy who did some of the old-time songs in The Shining, some of his music, and I gave him all these different music examples to inspire him, and that's what he's doing right now in his studio, is writing the music for Holidayz in Hell. So he's gonna have a completely original score. But this is the key art, the first key art. We'll have a second round that will come out with all of the characters. And I think in the house somewhere is the gentleman who designed the key art, I think. If you are, stand up, take a bow. Right there, there we go. Former Scaracter, I believe, right? Scaracter last year. And that's the cool thing about Horror Nights. We get to meet great, talented people who are not only performers of ours, and sometimes, you know, we find out that they have other talents. One of Chris's main designers was a character of ours in our Thing maze.
Yes.
His name's Troy, and you've probably seen him walking around Monsterpalooza. He always wears a fez, and he has a really long beard. But Troy,
we'll see a few pieces of these.
Troy over there, wave. But Troy's now part of Chris's design team, and he was his character. So it's great that we get to meet these people and work with them as talented actors, but sometimes they also transition to become part of our team too. So that's awesome. So this is the teaser key art, and then we're going to release another version later on that has all of the characters in it. But let's walk you through it. So again, this was the Scare Zone last year. This is Pat Quinn's lineup of characters that we featured in the Scare Zone. But for the maze, where Chris and I really started, and we brought Pat in on this one, so Pat played a big role in designing this maze with us as well. Yes. And Pat's really good at finding weird, messed up stuff. And one of the first things Pat brought us, he's like, look at these postcards. And some of them go back to like Victorian times. But have you guys ever done this? Have you ever looked up like old greeting cards and postcards? They're I can't say it because I should say it. Thank you. They're twisted. They're just messed up. Like, I don't know what people were doing in Victorian times, but they certainly weren't raising children. You know, they were traumatizing their children. And I'll show you plenty of examples. So basically, the leaping off point for every one of these scenes was some kind of a postcard. And we're going to use that as a reoccurring element throughout the maze. In fact, the facade is going to be a postcard. It's going to be this big New Year's postcard, and I think I brought it with me, at least the one that inspired it. There it is.
Yeah, that's the inspiration. That's something completely different than what you guys have seen us usually do. Usually our facades are not graphic pieces, so this is a little bit different. It'll be really cool.
And we're going to, you know, embrace the idea of New Year's Eve, so it's going to be the countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, and then when it's Happy New Year, everything kind of goes bad with the postcard. Like it takes on a creepy, scary effect. But some of the characters, forgot about the visual research. So we did a ton of visual research on this, and I'll just explain some of the images and how they relate to them. Of course, Father Time and Baby New Year, those are going to be characters. I'll show you those in a second. There's something about the 1920s that is just creepy to me, and I think it's probably because of the movie The Shining. That old music, just New Year's Eve celebrations in the 20s always spooked me out. I also like the flapper girl in the giant champagne glass, and then Chris has designed this. This is actually going to be an element you see when you go into the maze. It's going to bubble, and there's going to be, it's going to be like the Lawrence Welk show. There's going to be bubbles everywhere.
Yes, it will.
We also like the idea of like the New Year's baby. There's always like in small towns, they'd always go, they'd announce who the New Year's baby was, the first baby born after midnight. We also like the idea of doing a nursery. That's Chernobyl, by the way. If you look at that image at the bottom, that's what the nursery in Chernobyl looks like now. And if you look at a lot of old children's art, like Mother Goose, it's jacked up, it's messed up. So we wanted to bring that into it as well. These are all just images we pulled. Of course, the Father Time Still Walking character we had last year, that's the concept art for him. That's the final design. He's going to be part of this. But we're also going to have Party Revelers. This is very kind of Shining. This is kind of a little bit inspired by the Golden Room and the Shining. This is two of the characters Lucas designed. A new character.
She'll be inside the nursery.
Yeah, so we're going to take you into a nursery where Baby New Year is born, but it's going to be like a Chernobyl nursery that's been abandoned. There's going to be all this creepy kids art that's peeling off the walls, like old paintings. And then the wet nurse, or the nightmare nurse, is going to be this lady. That's a new character. And then we had to have Baby New Year, and we were trying to figure out how to do this. And the research that I did, that I sent to Chris, and he probably thought I was crazy, but there's a musical that has this song called Triplets. It's an old MGM musical, and it was Fred Astaire. Have you ever seen it where they're like little babies and they're like kicking their legs, and it's a gag. It's like they're really down on their knees. So we decided to do Baby New Year.
Yeah,
when
he sent that to me, I didn't think he was crazy, because I kind of had along the same thoughts in line. I think Shrek and more Farquaad on
Broadway.
I think the guy's basically on his knees, in a sense. So we're kind of trying to take that idea, and I've seen videos of that, but essentially put him on his back, as you can see, it's like Baby New Year, and then work in like a magic illusion gag. So our Baby New Year has a really kind of weird shape to him. It has really long arms.
Long monkey arms.
Yeah, and a big head, but then a little body, little feet, little legs. So when Baby New Year is in the bassinet, it should look really great and wild.
I was just thinking about like when we go backstage. I don't want to run into this guy backstage walking around like this. It's just going to be messed up.
Yes.
And then, of course, we're going to take you into Valentine's Day. If you look at old Valentine's Day greeting cards and postcards or Valentine's cards, they're all violent. I don't know why. It's like, I'm going to cut your heart out for Valentine's Day. And we found all these old creepy postcards. So, there's going to be, we're going to use the postcards to like introduce each scene. And then, of course, this is the visual research we did. Tunnel of Love, sweethearts, candies, trashy, tacky negligees that boyfriends buy their girlfriends for Valentine's Day and think they're actually buying them a gift, but it's really for them. Cheesy prom, like, bad, like, prom attire. Laughing, like the idea of the doors that open up was another idea we had. And then the weird statue you see in the Catholic Church, that's Saint Sebastian. He's always the saint you see with all the arrows in him. So we kind of took all of that and mixed it together. The idea for this is we're taking you into a tunnel of love, like an old carny tunnel of love. This is our Cupid character from last year. And then this is just one scene in that section. It's like a giant Valentine's Day present box. It's a prom date. It's a guy and a girl shot through with arrows from Cupid. There's a big, huge heart-shaped window behind him. And then Cupid's going to be basically cutting, a live performer, cutting her heart out and ripping it out of her chest.
Yeah, it's a little vignette, essentially, of like kind of our own version of one of these postcards in 3 dimensions.
And then the next section is the section that's going to get me kicked out of my new home country. Because there's nothing the Irish like better than when Americans tell them what leprechauns are. this classic thing, you know, they always go, whenever I come back, they're like, oh, do you eat like Lucky Charms cereal there? No, there's no such thing. You know, even St. Patty's Day, the way we say it, they laugh at us. They think we're silly. It's Patty with a D. But this is, of course, the leprechaun, the pot of gold, and we thought, well, how can we take that idea and make it scary? So this is the visual research. That weird cave thing you see, that's something you see all over Ireland. They're called fairy caves, and that's illustrations of fairies you see. But fairies are kind of semi-evil characters in Ireland. They're not nice. They're like tricksters, and they do evil things. The image you see tonight, we're going to start watching Game of Thrones again, right? That's from Game of Thrones. Remember when they poured the molten gold over the guy's head to kill him? We thought that was cool. It's gold. That the houses you see are stuff that I see all the time in the Irish countryside. You just drive around and find these houses everywhere. They never tear anything down. And there's old, ruined, 200-year-old farmhouses that have like live trees growing in the middle of them. And I sent that to you. I remember taking pictures and going, Chris, check this out. And then the bloated guy, there's a well. So the leprechaun, first you're going to go through the fairy tunnel or the fairy cave and see what the evil fairies are doing. Then you're going to come to the leprechaun's house, and it's going to very much resemble that ruined Irish farmhouse. This is our leprechaun character from last year. And then this is one of Chris's elevations. You can tell us what we're looking at.
Yeah, this is one of the elevations which we had mentioned Troy Zimmerman, he had done off of one of my sketches. So what I do is little teeny tiny small sketches that I represented this. And what I do is I hand these sketches off to an individual named Brandy Creason, who's in charge of all my show set designers. I've got like 6 of them or so. So she generates all this artwork through all those designers.
And then you see the tree popping out of the roof, it's growing in the middle of the house.
Yeah, we're trying to make a chimney out of that tree popping out, and we're trying to get, a really good feeling of this. To be totally honest with you, this is kind of our own thing. We're pulling like windows. That's like an old window from like a Crimson Peak look, actually, and we're going to take and change that look of that window to make it more represent St. Patty's Day.
And then what the leprechaun's doing is he's taking all the people who were after his gold, because they're trying to steal the leprechaun's gold, and he's pouring molten gold over them.
Yes.
So a little Game of Thrones.
Yes.
All right, Easter. And again, this is just wrong. Again, these postcards are always the inspiration for all of this stuff. When we think about Easter, the thing I always think about is all those great pictures you see on the internet of absolutely traumatized children sitting on the lap of freaky Easter bunnies. I grew up in the 1970s, Chris did too, so malls, photo ops for Easter, and this is basically what we're doing. We're going to take you into a 1970s creepy, shopping mall Easter bunny photo op, for lack of a better word. I hate peeps. Peeps are my most hated thing on the universe. I hate them, can't stand them, can't touch them, can't look at them. Just one of my weird phobias that I have, so wanted to work peeps into it. I found that weird picture of a girl like in an egg and showed it to Chris. I was like, I don't know what we're gonna do with it, but it's messed up. Let's do something with it. And then the bottom, that's Bunny Man. That's an urban legend about this weird rabbit guy that kills people in the Midwest. And then the idea of an Easter egg hunt. This is our Easter Bunny character from last year. And then just one elevation, just a little slice of what you're gonna see in the Easter section. This is those weird, oversized Easter eggs. There's a person that's been entombed in one of them. One of them has a melted, jacked up peep monster coming out of it. And then another one has our jacked up Easter bunny. And then another one's cracked like a jack-o'-lantern and is lit from the inside. So it's like an Easter egg jack-o'-lantern.
Easterpalooza.
4th of July. Again. Hey kids, here's an idea. Why don't you hold these explosives? And this was the inspiration for what we're going to do with 4th of July. Every postcard you see from 4th of July, it's always small children handling dangerous explosives. So there's got to be, a comeuppance for that. Visual research, roadside, middle of nowhere fireworks stands that we all grew up with.
Yes.
Creepy, seedy. I love the one that says smoke shop fireworks. It's a recipe for disaster. And all those old great brands like Black Cat. So we want to take you to a creepy roadside, very patriotic themed fireworks stand that is also like selling cigarettes. So it's exploding because people are smoking inside it. And so all the fireworks are going off. It's a big visual effects sequence. There's our Uncle Sam character. He's going to be one of the main characters in it. But also we have the fireworks kid, and that's his set piece. So it's all of this exploded, burned, charred fireworks with smoke effects and the smell of the, all the scent effects we do for Horror Nights. And then Chris, this was a Chris Williams one.
So that's him blown onto all these boxes of fireworks and such, and so that's our firework kit. That's what I imagined some of my buddies. Where I grew up in Northern California, we used to play around with all kinds
Dangerous
of
fireworks.
Yeah, wave firecrackers and beyond and 80, all that kind of stuff, and that was pretty relevant up there at that time in the 80s and the 70s.
I had a guy on our block, an adult, who stuck an M80 in a metal letterbox. Went, hey kids, check this out. And it was like shrapnel. Literally, it rained shrapnel down on the entire neighborhood. So that's our fireworks kid. Thanksgiving, when you think about Thanksgiving, if you were a turkey, would you like Thanksgiving? It's like, the year when all of your brethren are massacred, year after year after year. And I love this postcard of the kid with a dead turkey, like, hey, check it out. The main inspiration was Norman Rockwell's painting, the classic Thanksgiving painting. And we wanted to make like a 1950s Thanksgiving classic Americana, dinner in an American home. And then there's our turkey character. So basically the turkeys have turned the tables on the humans. They busted in the house and they're murdering everybody with the all of the implements you would find on the table. So people drowned in jello molds and serving forks impaled on them and meat thermometers. So it's just a bloody massacre. That's just an example of one page of the drawing package with the ground plan and Chris's scenic elevations of the 1950s, Norman Rockwell house. And then last but not least, because I know we're going to wrap it up soon, thank you, Perry, Christmas. So the maze ends with Christmas, and again, the postcards. Do you get anything creepier than that? There's like Peeping Tom Santa, staring at children. Now he's putting a child in a sack, and then he's calling, hello children.
Now he's calling their mom.
It's just wrong. So what we decided for Christmas is we're going to take you to a Christmas tree lot. I don't know why, but I grew up with all those horrible flocked Christmas trees. Like in the 70s, they were all like that horrible white flocking stuff that got everywhere. So if you imagine going to one like Santa's Christmas tree lot, except they're covered in blood, and all of the Christmas trees are adorned with like intestines instead of garland, little children's fingers instead of ornaments. That weird, Christmas tree dude inspired a character that, I'm going to save that one.
Yes.
Let's not tell anybody about it. You'll see that down the line. But of course, where you're going to end up is Santa. And we noticed something. If you just rearrange the letters of the word Santa, you get Satan! So Santa. And he's going to be the final scene in the maze. But it doesn't end there. Because we also have a scare zone that connects to this maze. This is going to be in our Parisian courtyard location where Universal Monsters was last year. So there's a whole Christmas in Hell themed scare zone. I know we're running close on time, so I'm going to go through it really quick. These are just some of the characters you're going to see. Mrs. Santa Claus, along with Satan Claus. We're bringing back some characters we did for Dark Christmas. So these are a couple of our evil elves from Dark Christmas, along with Jack Frost. And this is a new one. I love this one, the Winter Witch. And I love this one too. Nutcracker Stillwater.
That's a great one.
And that one's going to be really fun.
Yeah.
And then it all kind of comes full circle and it wraps up with Baby New Year. He's the end of it. So that's Holidayz in Hell.